Welcome, everyone. IndyCar tonight on 33 Dreams of Indy, trying something a little new here with a live broadcast covering some of the news, the notes. We'll be answering your questions that have come in over the week since we've had the race at Thermal. So we're going to be talking about the thermal fallout from that particular race, going through some news and notes that have come up in the meantime throughout the IndyCar series and the Indy Next series. Been a lot of testing going on. I know testing is very limited throughout the season, but at least it's better than nothing with this 3-week gap that's going on in the racing series, and even a longer gap for the Indy Next. A couple mailbag items, including a clarification of one item that I saw online. I'm going to show you some information about the IndyCar on Fox, some of their graphics, if you're newer to the sport, or what to look for. Also a little controversy there regarding the placement of some of the graphics. So we'll go through those items. We will also be looking at Bump Day. It's never too early to be talking about Bump Day for the Indianapolis 500, the number of teams that are entered, drivers that are looking to make it into the greatest spectacle of racing. Part of this channel being called 33 Dreams of Indy is to follow the drivers that dream of one day being in the Indianapolis 500. So we'll look at that. Appropriate segue to Indy Next. Those drivers that are in the lower rung series that look to progress, and some of the Indy Next drivers that are already testing as rookies this year for the Indianapolis 500 and other races. So we'll look ahead. We'll talk about a couple friends of the show, and then your questions as they are able to come up. You can find us on at 33 Dreams of Indy. That's for all of the major social media profiles, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, as far as TikTok still exists, at least for a period of time. And most importantly, our main hub here on YouTube, as we are going to be putting out more videos, and we'll talk about some of the formats that we are taking. But let's jump into Thermal. Let's jump into the race. We'll talk about some of the ratings, some of the items that came up from that, the perception, and then also the gap in the schedule. So had some time to think about it. Folks have. The comment section, would love for you to leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the race itself. Now that you've had some time to reflect on it, was Thermal a good race? Was it just satisfying because there had been a break between St. Pete and the next race that'll be at Long Beach? Was the action good enough for you? I'll give you a little bit of my thoughts, especially after here on 33 Dreams of Indy. Kind of did a little Bob Pockris action of also covering IndyCar. We did a live stream of that particular race, a watch along with the 400 laps that were at Martinsville, and giving a comparison there. But the race and the way in which Alex Palou was able to chase down the car that had been dominant in the first part of the race, with Pato O'Ward and then Christian Lundgaard, and the back and forth action that was going on between Lundgaard and Palou was some of the best racing that I've seen so far this year. The fact that the race was 65 laps with no caution periods on the 3.067 mile track. I was making some notes, so let me just jump right into it. Looking at the NASCAR race yesterday in comparison, the last 68 laps, now I know this was only on a half mile track, but the last 68 laps were actually caution free for that race. And there were only two cars that had issues that had pitted for tires, one being Joey Logano with Team Penske, a little bit like Will Power had done. He sliced his way back up through the field, but in the top 10 cars in that particular race, there were no passes. There was maybe on the one restart that there was a car that was able to get past another one. There was not a lot of shuffling back and forth of action that went on. That race itself for 400 laps had 9 lead changes. When you look at the race at Thermal, had 5 lead changes, and as I indicated, went green the entire time. So the big fallout from the race, the big discussion with the race was really what we saw with the ratings. And we'll take a look at Adam Stern. This is the X post that he made talking about motorsport viewership and how the race at Thermal shook out in comparison to other races. It was on Fox in comparison to FS1. What I haven't heard, what I haven't been able to get a clarification on is, did the circuit breaker going down, did that have any impact on the numbers? Because you'll hear these numbers, and I even see it on my live streams, that as the race starts itself, it starts at a particular level, and then it starts to grow throughout the race. Was there a drop off, and did it come back to that particular level? So I've got to do some more research. I've got that in my notebook to find out how do they actually determine these particular ratings. Is that an average over the particular race and over the time that the race was on? If that's the case, then there would have been a discount or a difference in the averages that were there. Also listening to one of the podcasts, if you're a newer IndyCar fan, Trackside with Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee, a pit reporter for the IndyCar on Fox, a longtime IndyCar specialist as far as his reporting, although he does a great job on a number of different motorsports. And Kurt Cavan, a former writer for the Indianapolis Star, now works for IndyCar directly in their communications department. They have a podcast that you'll be able to subscribe to on all of your major players. Kevin Lee was talking about this and saying that a portion of it also is the lead-in. So you'll notice that the NASCAR Cup race was on FS1. The NHRA had the lead-in because just like the race yesterday at Martinsville, as soon as the race was done, as soon as they made a couple interviews, they were switching right over to NHRA. Nowadays, with cable cutters, with people that are watching this on a streaming service, it makes it a lot more difficult for you to just switch back and forth between channels. I've even noticed that my own watch habits are changing. Watching ESPN baseball last night, and between innings or when it was commercial time, back in the day, we all remember the remotes, or maybe I'm dating myself, that your remote had an A and B or a back and forth channel, or if you were really fancy, you'd have an A, B, C as to your main program channels, and you would switch back and forth. And if it caught your attention, you then were looking at the other channel. That's not going on as much now. So although these numbers are here, and for Formula One just keeps on rolling. You can't see it on the particular screen that's right here, but one of the trending topics with over 26,000 posts with a hashtag just today is F1 Japan, with all of the back and forth that's going on with Red Bull, etc. So we know that Formula One's got a juggernaut. When we compare this, and I'm comparing it to NASCAR, frankly, yesterday there were a lot of empty seats. I also made a comment on somebody's post that was there at the race. and they indicated that they were displeased with the short track package and the quote-unquote Goodyear not getting the tires right. We've heard this before, haven't we? So it was interesting to see from that particular angle in the photo that I have here on the screen. Looks good at Homestead in comparison to what it was at Martinsville, but NASCAR still carrying the wagon, delivering the mail, and then the Xfinity Series on CW. So ratings were definitely something that would pay attention to. I also was mentioning during the live stream when I was watching the race and then over the weekend, so covering the practice session, the morning warm-up, using that as a pre-race show. As I was going through that, I talked about the lack of influencers that were, or the extra social media. Seemed like every other post from St. Pete was somebody that was newer to going to the track, or it was someone that was interviewing, say, Pato Award or one of the drivers on their phone, or putting out a short snippet. With a lack of fans at Thermal, there was not as much attention. There was not as much social media attention that was going on. But the aforementioned Bob Pockrass came through for us. And after the race, if you're... This is not safe for work, so we'll put this on here, show you, but Bob Pockrass, ever present, and caught the back and forth between Devin DeFrancisco and Fresco and Scotty McLaughlin.
You fucking moron? Really?
Yeah, I am.
What are you doing? We're supposed to be side by side in turn 15. Close the fucking door. Why? We're supposed to be side.
You gotta drive
No, we're supposed to be side.
You gotta drive through for a reason, Dave. For a reason, you gotta drive through.
We'll show you the video. I'll show you the video.
Okay, show you the video. Show me the video. You gotta drive through for a reason. We're not even green.
Yeah, you fucking go to the side.
Oh, okay. I'll drive the side.
You fucking
I'm on the outside. I'm on the outside.
Now, the interesting thing is this, the collision that occurred between the two cars happened before the green flag ever fell. It was something that the drivers were trying to line up to come to the green flag. It was a turn that basically only one car would be able to get through. We'll talk about the thermal track in just a bit. But when the outside car was trying to go around Scotty McLaughlin, he made a decision to not get off of his particular line. Devin came in, the two cars collided. I'm waiting to see the t-shirt. You got a drive-through for a reason, because that was something else. That is what I'm talking about, of the social media interaction or different behind the scenes that luckily we got a little bit of it. When I was listening afterwards, I get a lot of time in the car, so listening afterwards to the Speed Street podcast hosted by Connor Daly, he interviewed Scotty Mack. Scotty Mack said that the two drivers, Devlin and Scott, have had a discussion afterwards. Devlin apologized after seeing it, especially when you look at Scott McLaughlin's onboard camera to see what had occurred, and the two have decided to move forward and put this behind them. It made for great views there, over 600,000. Now that's funny. There's the video. I just saw this right here on IndyCar and Fox. It's gotten 600,000 views, 678,000 views. Compare that to the ratings of just being over 700,000. It's that echo effect that the sport is definitely going to need. Perception of some on the track. I posted a video at 33 Dreams of Indy about the track and why it needs to stay on the schedule. Had some feedback with some individuals on Facebook that didn't quite agree with that. And the perception of it being a elite country club for others that would not be able to visit or drive see the track or be able to visit. I compare that as well to seeing, I'm in Florida. If I wanted to get tickets to the Grand Prix down in Miami, I better be able to take out a home equity loan or a reverse mortgage in order to be able to afford that. So I know there were some VIP packages or limited tickets there, yet quite affordable to be able to go to a number of the other races. And as everything I've heard, the check that was paid from Thermal Club to IndyCar cleared. Therefore, we got a race and didn't have to sit for 6 weeks. Next year's schedule will be a little bit different. We already have an announced date for the new race that'll be in Texas, Arlington, Texas. And so it will be interesting to see the specific start date of St. Pete, where the date, how that works with the date there in Arlington, and then will there be a 2-week or 3-week gap afterwards in order to get to Long Beach. These gaps in the schedule are very painful at the start of the season. We're already through and getting into the place where Formula One is catching up and passing the number of races that IndyCar has already done. NASCAR every single week, even NHRA, they get something that is a tune in there. So that's something that we'll have to look at, and frankly, as a fan, just have to deal with for the period of time. That leads us to some of the items that came out, the news and notes. The Andretti Herta team got a fine and a points deduction on that. Let's go over and take a look at some of the information there, where they announced a rules violation and a penalty. The specific penalty for Andretti Global and Colton Herta, there are approved parts that must be on the car. These are anti-intrusion plates. Back in 2015, James Hinchcliffe had a wreck at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There was a part of the suspension that came back through the tub of the car and actually impaled Hinchcliffe. There is supposed to be 2 layers of anti-intrusion plates within the car. There was only 1 that was put in, and that was the reason for the penalty. And so it will be a penalty, and the procedures, $25,000, 10 championship entrant points that will be taken away from the Andretti Global team. Another announcement of penalties was for Robert Schwartzman, and I won't even say Schwartzman, it was the Prima 83 team. Their luck at that track and that weekend kept following them, and that was bad luck. There was not some approved parts regarding the onboard fire suppression system, and therefore it had to be there was a penalty that came out, same thing, 25,000 and 10 championship points. Fire within practice for the Prima car was not able to make it through all of the practice, only was able to make 1 lap in qualifying, and even then it was too fast down pit road, so had to serve a drive-through penalty there. Did actually make it into the race, and Schwartzman, with other cars having difficulty difficulties, finished 22nd, only one lap down. So that was at least good to see the seat time that occurred and we were able to have. So those were some of the announcements and items that came up. Let's get back to, or let's switch on over to testing that has been occurring, that already occurred. Some of the teams, they're allowed a test period. A lot of the teams either decided to go to thermal. The thermal test earlier this year, that was the Andretti cars that had gone to that. There was a test at Barber Motorsports Park, and then these teams had not tested there outside of Jacob Abel using the rookie testing provision. So this week, the Indy road course, there was testing with the Chip Ganassi Racing team there. From all reports, top of the board was Scott Dixon. Very important test for Juncos Hollinger. Both of those cars, a track that Connor Daly's been comfortable at, being able to compare those notes with the team. Hopefully it's the same tire compound that they're testing on that they'll be able to run in May, although a little bit different temperature difference. But that was a very, very important critical. I know that Connor Daly spoke on his podcast about looking forward to that. One of the two Dale Coyne cars with Jacob Abel was able to participate. Rinus VeeKay was at the test and was a little bit under the weather, but he was conferring back and forth with Jacob Abel. And then both of the AJ Foyt cars with David Malukas and Santino Ferrucci. Nashville, we had some of the rookies there. Speaking of the Prima team, as we did earlier, Robert Schwartzman able to turn his first laps on an oval, and then Louis Foster. Louis Foster has had the experience with the ovals, especially with the Indy Next car, but got an opportunity to do his testing there at Nashville. So appreciate those that are joining us, or if you're listening on repeat. Wanted to jump into, I saw one item on Racer Magazine and the mailbag, a question. Not sure if it was the Fox coverage or if they were doing something with the graphics, and that's why I wanted to cover this, because I will be talking about the graphics in just a second. But during the race, the track edge changed from light blue to red. Just curious of what they're seeing. Marshall Pruitt answered correctly. The paint is colored different in different areas of the track. When you take a look at an overhead view, and this is something that I was explaining during our live stream and watch along, we're not able to carry the broadcast itself yet. I've had some individuals, especially some of our overseas, shout out to our folks in Sweden, Australia, Brazil, Norway with Dennis Hager and the Indy Next series. They tune in, and to give them an explanation, being newer to IndyCar. But looking at the track map here, you'll see that in turns 1 through 8, you will see that there is the red paint. And even down to the standpoint that right where my mouse is pointing here in turn 1, there is a little blue part of paint right there. And that blue will indicate the apex, because this track is used by a lot of driving coaches, and being the country club type of setting, you'll have individuals that'll bring their Lamborghinis, their McLarens, their high souped up cars out here, and they will be videotaped and seeing how they're taking their line, breaking points, etc. So there is the blue there, and then in other turns up here on the blue portion of the track, there's actually a little red mark. We are only seeing in this particular image, we're seeing 2, technically 3 if you talk about the go-kart track or drifting track here, but we're seeing 2 of the main 3 tracks that are here. And when you talked about, when you heard during the race talking about the bumps that the drivers were going over, that was the transition here between 8 and 9, because the red course actually makes a left turn, not a right turn to head into 9. And then as they come out of 16 16 and 17, where Scott McLaughlin in the qualifying first round spun coming out of this area. There's another transition point because usually the track would go between 15, 16, and then right into 9 to be a loop, or up here on 10 or between 9 and 10, you'll see that they go up north for another location for the third portion of the track. So great question in the mailbag, and that was something that was I wanted to bring up, and we pointed out again during the live stream. If you're watching this year, IndyCar on Fox and their new graphics, the NFL style introductions are absolutely fantastic. It gives an opportunity for the drivers to you get the presentation from them. IndyCar being diverse, you get to hear a little bit of the language and the accent that they have. So shout out, that's fantastic. I love to see this, and I wanted to make sure that I was pointing that out. I'm very impressed with that. Now, a portion that I wanted to point out that would be new for you if you're looking at it. One is they've already updated between St. Pete. This was taken at St. Pete during the Colton Herta pit stop where they were trying to adjust the rear tire that dropped them back in the field. Up here underneath the Shell logo, so where it says yellow and then there's the Shell logo, you'll see this brief little bar that is yellow and green. So recalling back to the St. Pete track, I couldn't grab the graphic from the Thermal Club because the race was green the entire part. Now, they could have had fun with the bar and put a little black portion in it while they were off the air, but I kid because I care, as Chris Myers would say. But looking at this, you'll see that there was a very short yellow period, and then the part of the race where they were actually going green. They use a similar graphic to this in their NASCAR coverage, and yesterday it was covered with yellow dots. The reason for that is they have stage racing, and so being on a short track, there were natural cautions that occurred and then artificial cautions that were caused by the stoppage between stages. So that's something to look for. You'll also see that the images changed at Thermal rather than just being the Fox cartoons. I have to say, even looking at the cartoons, that Joseph Newgarden is even fitter in person, it looks like, than the cartoon version of him. So the next portion of it is that you will see they will show a in-car graphic that will be talking about the telemetry and some of the things that are going on within the race car itself. The throttle and brake indicator here. So Felix Rosenqvist down, this would be heading towards turn 4 at St. Pete. So he's full throttle at that particular point. It's letting you know that the next turn is coming up there, turn 4, and that how far away he is from that particular turn. His brake indicator will come on here as well. It identifies the driver, the make of engine, his speed at that particular point, and then over here his RPMs, which will indicate whether or not he needs to shift, and then what particular gear he's in. I believe over here as well, if we look at it, because he had just come out of the pits, that gives his position indicator here. So this little 15 would indicate what position he is currently in the race. Some of this you will see, depending upon the different steering wheels that they use, you will see different things that come up. There are some teams that are unhappy with this particular graphical layout, and let me explain. I'll show you that in the next screen. This is the exact same car coming into the pits, and you will see that he has some indicators that are there for the driver. But the part that I want to point out, the part that I want you to notice, is this is the exact same car. Here you see the inner advertising for Sirius XM, for the Octane channel on Sirius XM with Shinedown, who actually was doing the command to start the engines. We also have a Visit Lauderdale sticker that's on here, and Cliffs. Now, I don't know, I don't even pretend to know how much they're paying or they're receiving for that particular Visit Lauderdale, nor did I look in Thermal to see if that was maybe a rotating sponsorship that they had with someone else. But if we go back to the screen before, you don't even see that. You're not even able to see it during the period of time. And I could just imagine the boardroom when they were having this discussion of saying, hey, the placement of this will be in such a way that you will be seen. There's Arctic Wolf. I even noticed it here that the Arctic Wolf sponsorship, you will be seen in a key location on the onboard camera. And the fact of the matter is, because of this graphic being put in place, it's not there. So this is something that probably needs to be worked through. I know Formula One with the McLaren team, because it's a little bit different. They don't actually have the aero screen. They have the camera that is on the side of the driver's head that they're looking out. And they also have a similar graphic. I'm going to be looking this weekend to see if it covers anything. McLaren team in Formula One had an electronic board that was actually rotating these ads, similar to what you would see at a hockey game, the way in which they rotate, or behind the catcher in a baseball game. So just showing you some of the graphics that you would look through. While I'm on this particular graphic, you see the times that are here. That's how far back they are from the first place car. So it's 1.8, 2.5, 3.4. That's not to the next car right in front of them. That's to the overall leader. Sometimes they have to indicate that. So there you go. If you're tuning in, that'll give you some information about the graphics and how Fox is handling that. Bump day, getting ready for the Indy 500. Never too early to start dreaming about the 33 cars that'll make it. If you're new to IndyCar racing, there's a procedure that 33 cars will start the race. Yet at this particular moment, we have 34 drivers and teams that are identified that they're going to attempt to make the race. Elio Castroneves, the four-time champion, Takuma Sato. Elio will be at the Meyer Shank Racing Team. Takuma Sato with RLL. Jack Harvey, who is also doing pit reporting for IndyCar on Fox. He was going to be making a attempt with Dreyer and Reinbold Racing, along with Ryan Hunter-Ray. Marco Andretti with Andretti Global. Kyle Larson, the NASCAR driver, attempting to do the double, weather permitting. He will be with the Arrow McLaren team, and Ed Carpenter for the third car for ECR Racing, the racing team that carries his initials. The reason I put a 35th driver there is there were two cars that were talked about, or two drivers. The 35th was originally, there was some discussions about Catherine Legg. She, it is believed, has sponsorship at least put together and is looking for somebody to field a car. And then that brings up the Abe Sports, who last year made an effort for the race. They have made an announcement that they're going to focus their efforts and are actually working on the chassis that they have as a support to Jacob Abel being a rookie within the race. And they want to make sure that they have a complete focus there for Dale Coyne Racing. So we'll look to see if Catherine Legg is able to put something together. As of right now, though, 34 teams and drivers looking to make it into the field of 33 in the Indy 500. So, a couple cars that we've seen. No, 33 Dreams of Indy will not have a car in the race, but having a little fun with AI there. Very interesting to see what it put out. Takuma Sato's car, very interesting, and it'll be great to see him. Don't know if this is this is last year's for Marco Andretti. We'll see what his actual car ends up looking like. Switching on over to Indy next. Their next race, we have to wait all the way to Barber Motorsports Park. The Grand Prix of Long Beach is a partner race with IMSA. So as far as track time, etc., Indy Next is not there. Dennis Hogger is still the points leader, and after seeing all of the videos that he's been posting of going to the gym, which is exactly what he should be doing as a developing driver, and I was expecting to see him at the NFL Combine because he will be that fit. But he put on a show, that was for sure, at St. Pete, and all of these drivers are looking to get back on the track. I say all of them, not all of them. Sophia Flores, there was an announcement that was made both by the Indy Next and HMD Motorsports that they will not be racing together going forward. Behind the scenes, or the talk was of it being a financial decision that was made, and so Sophia Flores will not be moving forward. Another announcement that was made, this is regarding the upcoming test, at least, for Nashville Super Speedway, Davey Hamilton Jr. And he also posted that he would be participating in the test that was there. I saw Dennis Hogger had posted that he was a photo of the tunnel. So they were getting their first taste of the oval at Nashville Super Speedway. Davey has been tearing it up in the sprint car, also running his own sprint car championship. And I notice here as well, the back tail here says good boy. And one of the announcements with the Flames here was Good Boy Vodka. So it looks like there's a partnership there. We wish Davey all of the best, at least I do, for we've used to hear in NASCAR about road course ringers. We've seen a bit as to oval ringers. And this is part of the reason. There are many, many reasons why the Freedom 100 does not occur on Carb Day. Yet one of the reasons given at the time was not having drivers that were not participating in this series, were not familiar with the car, not having an opportunity to race or test in it, all of a sudden coming out, and their first race in the car is on the famed 2.5 mile Indianapolis Motor Speedway. At least in this case, Davey getting some testing at Nashville before the race. Looking ahead, the IMS Museum will be reopening on April 2nd. I've got to give a shout out. There's a great video. I'll post it here. A video with David Land giving a insider tour. And this is going to be absolutely packed during the month of May, especially race weekend. So for some of us, this will be our opportunity and our glimpse into the track there. So shout out to David. Great video. I scanned through it, and we'll look to see more of it when I finish up here. The points championship, let's go over to that particular screen as well for IndyCar. As we look at the drivers' teams, Alex Palou has a 38-point lead. If we look at the way that points are issued, 50 points for first, 40 points for second. In all practicality, he could finish last in a race and still hold the points lead. So we've got Palou, Award, Scott Dixon, Christian Lundgaard with his great run jumping up to fourth, Felix Rosenqvist, two solid efforts, as well as Kyle Kirkwood. A little down in the pack for Joseph Newgarden and McLaughlin, so you see that. Colton Herta clawed his way back up to eighth. And then one more that I want to be able to point out is Will Power, as he was able to come through the field. That jumped him from last place to 14th in the standings. So as we go back to some of our questions, and I'd love to see you answer in the comments or drop me a line. How many races will Palou actually win in 2025? He's got a number of tracks coming up outside of the ovals and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway being an oval. He's been pretty good at a lot of the other tracks. They just practiced did their testing at IMS. He was quick there, not as quick as his teammate. Yet, how many races do you think that he's going to win? And then, who do you got for Long Beach? What's your prediction for Long Beach? Are we going to see Alex Palou continue? Is this redemption time for Pato O'Ward? Will the Andretti team be strong there? And Penske is due for a bounce back. So love to hear what you're saying. Drop me a note. Leave a comment, and we'll discuss that in next week's IndyCar Tonight. So we do live streams. I've mentioned these. We'll do live streams, or what you would call maybe a watch along, where I give information like that track details or graphic details, or a little bit of the behind the scenes of strategy. Really some things that the broadcast cannot take the time to dive into. As you see, I use multiple screens. I'll show you back and forth. Yesterday during the live stream, there was an issue with one of the driver's cool suits. So I took the time to explain that, showed a little bit of a clip or a image of what it was, and then gave a description. Yes, the race on TV does a great job with their cutaway cars, those types of things, yet sometimes they don't go into all of the details. That's what we do in the watch along. So we'll be doing IndyCar at Long Beach, Indy next, and IndyCar at Barber, and then throughout the year on Here and Now Sports. Wow, we got sports. Here and Now Sports. That's another YouTube channel that we have going. It's my intention to do a live stream or watch along with a number of other sports. You'll also see our review of, we got an opportunity to go see the Savannah Bananas, and you'll see my impressions of that. Shout out to some of the friends of the show this weekend. Josh Green has always been a great friend of the show, and shout out to him out in Sonoma during the GT4, the Random Vandals racing. I love the raccoons that are on those particular cars. He and his partner picked up a victory there. And then Reese Gold, who had been a USF Pro racer and champion, and then also with the Indy Next Series. He made an announcement here that he's back racing, will be competing 2025 in the ELMS season, LMP3, and he'll be over starting, it says, on track tomorrow, so I'm sure that's depending upon what time zone, etc., that he will be racing there in Barcelona. So, and I love the little gift that Nolan Aller also gave for him. So, love to see the friends of the show going there. Appreciate you tuning in and listening here as we get more of the emails, more of the comments. If you've got something that comes up throughout the week, drop me a line at 33 Dreams. And we will be able to address your specifics and what your questions are, or maybe there's a topic that we need to cover. Yes, we have another weekend without IndyCar racing, and then we'll be back at it in Long Beach, one of the crown jewels of the IndyCar series. So until next time, check out our channel. Just posted about my blue envelope that I got. Gave a reveal to show you what is included in an Indy 500 ticket package. So that you can see that information. And we'll have other videos that we post at 33 Dreams of Indy. Until next time, keep dreaming.